Good afternoon, everyone. When Brian first called us to talk to us about talking about opportunity zones, he said that it would be really great if you could do a TED-style talk. And after we laughed and said that'd be impossible because basically this is a tax program, Lillian and I have spent a fair amount of time and effort trying to get this down to 18 minutes and treat it like a TED Talk. So that's our background, and we hope that you enjoy it. The character played by Danny DeVito in the movie Other People's Money, he would have loved the Opportunity Zone program. You've got people with capital gains lining up, eager to invest them just to get the tax benefits. And some authors have said that we could be talking about billions of dollars of new other people's money being channeled into low-income census tracts that have been designated as opportunity zones. So Lillian and I, we're colleagues. We're also veterans of the redevelopment force. When we heard about this rather pro-redevelopment aspect of the 2017 Tax Act, we thought, you know, this could really come in handy when we are in that often familiar situation of having a client who has a pro forma that just has a gap that won't close. So we found ourselves being early adopters of understanding the tax benefits, and we are here today to share with you our journey from over the last year or so as we have gotten accustomed to the statute and the regulations, as we have helped our clients to navigate through these tax benefits and to leverage what is an awesome amount of new capital coming into these projects. Our journey started with getting a handle on the fundamentals, the fundamental benefits of the Opportunity Zone tax statute.
And we actually think that the most significant tax benefit is essentially that the gain that you realize from investing in an opportunity zone can be potentially tax-free, provided that you invest, your capital gain in the OZ fund, and that you at least hold that investment for at least 10 years. We think it's the most significant, predominantly because you don't have to comply with the timing requirements of investing your gain by the end of this year, or actually by 2021. As long as you invest your gain by 2026, you can still benefit from the permanent deferral on that appreciation gain. In addition to these benefits, if you do happen to find a project and are able to invest in a fund by the end of this year, you can both defer any taxes that you realize on the capital gains that you're investing. And in addition to that, you can potentially have 15% of the original gain that you invested in the fund deferred, in the sense that you do not have to pay taxes on that original 15% if you invest by the end of this year. If you don't invest by the end of this year, you still have an opportunity of having 10% of that original capital gain, not having to pay taxes on it if you invest by 2021. But again, just keep in mind you have to pay taxes by 2026. I think one of the interesting struggles that we've sort of been walking our clients through this last year, especially, and I think what's been surprising to most of our clients and developers, is that the Opportunity Zone program has a special related party rule. And so in order to take advantage of the program, you, one, have to have invested, have to purchase a property after 2017. And then you have to purchase that property from an unrelated party. Now, many of our clients and developers, and also other developers out there, have owned their properties, have owned their lands, have gotten all their approvals prior to 2017. So you can imagine how the conversation went when you're telling them they actually have to give up at least 80% of their ownership interest in that property in order to leverage this capital and attract it to its project. So I think that's sort of been kind of some of the most challenging, or the most challenging aspect of the program in terms of implementing it. But I think the great thing is that there are workarounds, and our clients have actually found some pretty creative ways on getting around the economics of giving up, 80% of their ownership interest. And so what they've done is actually turned into becoming managers of the funds that they're attracting to their project, or just managers of their project in general, depending on what type of project it is. They've also increased their developers' fees, obviously within reason. You can't, say you're going to get 50% of project cost of the developer's fee, but you can up it to a reasonable fit, about 15%. And then there is a buyout provision that I have some of my clients negotiate with their investors after 10 years, because again, as we mentioned, the nugget of the program is for you to invest for 10 years, and if we buy you out, you can still benefit from the deferral of permanent deferral of that appreciation and that gain. The one just a quick thing, the IRS is really trying to facilitate and encourage these investments, and so one of the ways you can get around the related party rule is entering into a lease with a related party, but that comes with conditions. You have to enter into that lease after 2017. That lease has to be at market rate, and you also cannot prepay in any year more than 12 months of that lease. So there are some conditions, and some developers don't like that solution either. So,
And as Lillian said, the service, actually, the IRS service actually seems to be trying to work with the investment community to make this Opportunity Zone program easier to use. And let's talk about some of what we've seen as we've been traveling through this last year in terms of the improvements, if you will, on interpretations of the statute. We start with the all-important timing requirements that are involved. First of all, and this is something that's been in the statute since the beginning, a person with capital gains needs to invest those capital gains within 180 days after they have realized those capital gains. And they have to invest them into either an Opportunity Zone fund or an Opportunity Zone business. The second timing requirement is one that really has to do with the amount of investment required. A substantial improvement of the property needs to be done within 30 months. And what's a substantial improvement? Substantial improvement means basically at least doubling the basis after you acquire the property. So it's a significant requirement, and you need to accomplish that within 30 months. Now, there are a couple of instances where you can avoid the obligation to substantially improve the project. They are called the original use exceptions. If you are originally using a property, you as the Opportunity Zone Fund or you as the Opportunity Zone business, if you are commencing the use of the property for the purposes of taking depreciation and or amortization of the property, then you will be deemed to be originally using the property. Meaning that if there was somebody that owned the property before and they had the opportunity to take depreciation and amortization, you're not doing original use. But if you, the fund, are the first party that is taking depreciation and amortization, then you will have original use. Now, the two aspects of very good news that have come out of the second round regulations are that actually, as we sit here in Newark, this first one is really important. If you are in a position where you are buying property that's been vacant for 5 years, then that will be deemed to be original use. In addition to that, if you are leasing property, your investments in leased property will also be deemed to be original use. And the last helpful provision is that land does not have to be substantially improved. So in all of those ways, I think that the 30-month requirement has certainly been made more flexible. The next timing requirement that everyone needs to be aware of is the 31-month requirement, which
exclusive of a 30-month requirement. The 30-month is really tied to what Ann was just explaining with substantial rehab. The other 31-month requirement has to do with how much cash your business that you ultimately invest in can actually have in its coffers. And it's tied to working capital. And you may or may not know, but your business is not really allowed to hold an excess amount of cash. And the test is, and it's called non-qualified financial property. And IRS is basically just trying to restrict these businesses from hoarding cash from these gains to sort of create semi-tax shelters, right? The spirit of the program is to spur new development, new construction, new projects, and new businesses. And so they want to ensure that the business is actually going to utilize the funds that are, coming in and what they're raising, right? So how do you, marry the fact that you're telling me I can't have excess cash in hand, but you know that I'm going to raise hopefully multi-million dollars to invest into my project. And so the IRS said, I hear you. I'm going to tell you that you can, as long as you expend your cash within 31 months, you are okay to hold that cash in your coffers. But you have to have a plan that's associated with it, a plan that describes how you're actually going to deploy that capital into your project. And that could be anywhere from a construction, a startup, from a rehab, or to an operating business. Again, it really is in the spirit of knowing that you're going to get an infusion of capital on day one, and so you have 31 months from that day to actually spend it. But what I want folks to really focus on is that this really just is a safe harbor. And the new proposed regulations that came out in April gives you a little bit of wiggle room in that they say, we're going to extend that 31 months if in the event you have not received all of your government approvals. And if that's the reason for your delay, then you can still be within the safe harbor. But I would like to counsel my clients to always, comply with the safe harbor so that, they can be scot-free and move forward with their project. There are different things that occur that could delay your project, like construction delays, construction litigation. The presentation before us was discussing environmental. There's quite possible that environmental delays can occur. And I think that if you can justify why you need a little more time to expend your money to the IRS, I think you are still in their good graces and you would still have a qualifying project. Again, it's just really a matter of being able to make that argument of why you need to hold on to that cash for just a little longer. And again, it just has to be reasonable. And in the spirit of the IRS, I think really trying to help out the development community and also make sure that the OZ program does what it's supposed to do, which is, unleash all of this $6 trillion, I think they said, in capital into the low-income communities, is that they've actually loosened up and clarified some of their rules. And so you may know that an Opportunity Zone fund must have 90% of its assets invested in an Opportunity Zone property, which is tested semi-annually. And it's also, you have to report it annually to the IRS. The new regs clarify that once a fund actually receives an infusion of capital from gain, the fund actually has 180 days or 6 months from the receipt of that to find a qualifying project. And so that was really a huge win for the OZ community, because initially no one knew how long funds had to find a good project. But now they actually have 6 months, and so they can hold that money in cash and not have to include it in their 90% asset calculation test, which gives them lots of wiggle room, because you may not know, but you have to pay penalties if you don't satisfy the 90% test. So I think that's also a huge win for the community. The new regulations also clarify that a fund can sell its underlying assets without actually triggering an inclusion event, and so that the original investors in the fund can actually still partake in the tax benefits of the program. And it allows the funds to about 12 months, I want to say, to reinvest those dollars to make sure you're constantly invested in the OZ. And it also is allowing for a secondary market where funds are actually selling their interest to other entities, creating sort of this, again, like I said, the best way to explain it is the secondary market for purchasing interest in funds.
The last two areas that we're going to touch upon that have been sources of more flexibility relate to use of opportunity zone funds in a business. And that's not something that many people have been focusing on. It's largely been thought of as a real estate investment tool, but you are able to invest opportunity zone funds in a business. And one of the requirements is that you would be able to prove to the service that the qualified business entity is actually generating 50% of their income in the opportunity zone. This was an unduly rigid requirement in the original versions of the regs, but it's been improved in the second round regs, and we now have the service assisting us by telling us that here's 4 different ways you can approach this proof. You can look at the number of hours that are being spent in the opportunity zone, but you can also look at the amount that the business is paying for work that is done in the opportunity zone. Third, you can look at whether the management and the tangible personal property of the business is located in the opportunity zone, and if you can show that that is necessary, that those 2 elements are necessary for creation of 50% of the income of the entity, that's also satisfactory. And lastly, the service is open to listening to your particular facts and circumstances in terms of determining whether you've met the 50% requirement.
One of the other things with the recent guidance that just supports, I think, the message that Ann and I are trying to deliver with respect to the IRS really being supportive of investments in the OZs, is that, for example, it has become clear that substantial use of tangible property or property within the OZ by an operating business, substantial has been qualified as being 70%, which is similar to what the real estate requirement is currently. It is also clear that inventory that is in transit can be counted as being used within the OZ, which I think is a tremendous win for the OZ community because the day and age in which we operate is all electronics, technology, online sales, and things of that nature. So that clarification, I think, was a big win for some operating businesses that can really utilize the infusion of equity from the OZ. Similarly, it has been really, really helpful if you have an operating business that happens to have assets not just in an OZ but also outside an OZ, so long as the majority or substantial portion of the assets of that entity are located within the OZ, they can satisfy the substantial use rules. Again, it's just based on cost basis and it's the unadjusted basis. So long as more of their property is within the OZ versus what's not in the OZ, they can satisfy that requirement.
So you can see that there's reasons to be hopeful about the possibility of using these pent-up capital gains for opportunity zone investments. But lest you go away a little too optimistic, we're going to leave you with 2 closing points. Let's hark back to what Lillian mentioned at the outset was the most important aspect of the tax benefits to the taxpayer, namely the fact that you have the chance to have appreciation in the asset not be taxed at the end of the 10-year period. That's a huge benefit, but it assumes that the value of the investment is going to increase over the 10 years. In other words, you really need to have appreciation. And I mentioned that we're veterans of the redevelopment wars. These are not easy jobs. As was alluded to in the last panel, we're talking brownfields, we're contaminated sites, we're talking sites in older sections of the state that have infrastructure challenges. We're talking sites where you've got to take care of demolishing the current building before you can even think about building a new one. So you need to look for the right opportunity zone and the right developer or business to do your deal with. And what do we mean by look for the right opportunity zone? You want an opportunity zone in a place like Newark where they get it. They get that they need to have a public-private partnership with you in order to get this project done. You need to be able to relatively expeditiously get your approvals. You need to have some people that have had some signs of success in the opportunity zone, or at least in the municipality, so that you're not a pioneer. If it's a redevelopment, you need to have a good redevelopment area designation in place and a good redevelopment plan. And you know that it really helps if the town is open to doing things like tax abatement and redevelopment area bonds. Likewise, if you're investing in an opportunity zone business, it really helps if the municipality has an urban enterprise zone and if it has an economic development corporation trying to draw in new businesses. So pick the right opportunity zone, and then, as we said, pick the right developer. You don't want to be giving your capital gains to the character played by Danny DeVito in other people's money. You want a developer who is experienced, a developer that follows the tax rules that we've alluded to, and a developer that can timely perform, because the timing is so important. Likewise, when you're dealing with a business, a proven operator is key to that appreciation. Lest we leave you terrified of all of the downside risk, we are here finishing on a note that's positive. In the real world, people at my firm have been working with clients on setting up opportunity zone funds. It has happened, and it will continue to happen. And Lillian has actually been involved in a couple of projects that have been in development.
Yes, I've actually had the pleasure of sort of being at all phases and stages of, creating the funds, assisting developers with structuring their projects, and unfortunately some restructuring their projects from an ownership perspective. And, I worked on a small project in Newark where it was a direct investment. We created the fund. It was a small office rehab, associated parking, about a $2 million structure that was actually quite successful, and the client was very happy with the way things were moving along. And also down in Maryland, I had the pleasure of working on a major development that closed that's really transforming a neighborhood, creating mixed-use retail, housing, next to Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is also benefiting from the project. And that required restructuring because our developer client, I think, held the property 2 years before this program was even in existence. And so it took some, creative thinking, creative structuring to get them to, want to give up the ownership of more than, or at least 80%. But, it's a successful project. It's on its way, and I think it's going to be really great for the community. And I think, to Anne's point, both of these projects are located in areas that I think there's going to be a trajectory of appreciation in their projects, and I think their investors won't be unsatisfied, in year 10 when they see what their appreciation has come to.
Good luck in your investments.